couple, but when it comes to us, it's true, it's true. We got our hands up, they still gon' shoot. It's true, it's true, it's true, it's true. We got our hands up, they still gon' shoot. Es verdad, hay gente que no quiere verme respirar. Es verdad, pues de color me quiero pisar. Si nos unimos la voz no se va a acabar. Y si hablamos claro la cosa se va a arreglar. No nos vamos a dejar, no vamos a tolerar. Se acaba toda la injusticia. Yo quiero ser libre, yo quiero ser libre. Si somos de alto calibre, de toda hora que Dios me libre. Don't get it twisted, you might be Spanish and English. The targets are endless. This way I feel alive. Being disrespected and harassed all the time. Can't even wear a hoodie when it's cold outside. Black and brown, what they wanna divide from the other side. It's true, it's true. We got our hands up, they still gon' shoot. It's true, it's true, it's true, it's true. We got our hands up, they still gon' shoot.
Fear and paranoia no longer an excuse. Before they can act, we end the abuse. Until those with guns learn to act with grace, we watch their every move, we show up and we face the reality we live, the right to stop and search. But we change the game, strip their right to hurt. Families torn apart at the seams. If one man falls, we lose an entire army.
Still gon' shoot. It's true. We got our hands up, they still gon' shoot. It's true, it's true, it's true, it's true. We got our hands up, they still gon' shoot.
Imagine a world where children run free. It doesn't matter the skin tone, doesn't matter the pedigree. A black child in a white neighborhood playing free, no police checking what they should be.
What's up, what's up, what's up, everybody? You already know who it is. It's absolutely, positively your girl, Lily Mae. And once again, we are back. And so we started a little bit early, and I'm live a little bit early because I first and foremost want to introduce and reintroduce to you the All Things Authentic platform. And pretty much for the next couple of Thursdays, we are going to talk about and discuss and really just have open dialogue with structure relative to things that we're seeing going on around us, right? Now, tonight, unlike Sunday night, is going to be a lot different. Sunday night was impromptu. Sunday night was emotional, if you will. However, tonight's going to be very structured. It is definitely going to be intentional. And so, you viewers, I want you to hear what's going to transpire. So, in a few minutes, I'm going to start bringing in panelists one by one. And what's going to happen is this conversation is not going to be about political affiliation, nor is it going to be about class, nor is it going to be about anything other than perspective, right? Now, we have to keep in mind, perspectives are created based upon life experiences and those things that we have been cultured to, right? What that means is no one has an experience that's better than anybody else's, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all afforded certain things based upon where we grew up, how we grew up, who we grew up under, and things of that nature. So tonight, you are going to support us as we have an engaging, enlightening, and embodying dialogue. So let me start to bring in my panelists one by one.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Spectacular. Hi. All righty, guys. So look, tonight, I hope you're ready because tonight is going to be so different. When you guys introduce yourselves, you're going to introduce yourself by name and favorite color. That's it. Because what we're going to do tonight is we are going to answer questions, but we're going to take 4 minutes to answer the question and an additional minute to introduce ourselves so that each one of you have a minute or two to respond to the person's answer to their posed question. Now, you're probably saying, why is this? This is because tonight we are going to be intentional, we are going to be specific, but better yet, we are going to be on one accord, right? We all have different perspectives and worldviews, and that's what makes this great. And so in my heart, I'm ready. We have about 1 minute. So in 60 seconds, it's about to be on. All right. So let's see here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, all right. Having fun. All right, so I guess we're going to do it by who came in first. So, Derek.
Hey, boo.
Favorite color. Introduce yourself and then tell us your favorite color.
I'm Derek, and my favorite color is blue.
All right.
I love the hair.
Oh, well, thank you. Mr. Leon, L. Dot, what is your favorite color? Introduce yourself.
I go by a hip hop artist named L. Dot. My favorite color is purple, of course. Right.
So we have blue and we have purple. All right. The man with the plan, Mr. Frank. What is your favorite color? Introduce yourself. We can't hear you, Mr. Frank.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep. We can
There
hear
you
you
go.
now.
Hey, Lily. Actually, one of my favorite colors is green, and I'm going to go with green tonight, and I'll tell you a little bit later why. Not that
All
kind
right.
of green, baby.
Oh, I was going to say green for Monday.
No, not that.
All right. Mr. Cohen.
My name's Cole, and my favorite color is gold.
Ooh, I like gold, sparkling. And Miss Natasha, please introduce yourself and your favorite color.
Hi, my name is Natasha, and my favorite color is also purple.
All right, so we have, okay, let me see if I can remember, because we're going to challenge the viewers to remember. Derek is blue, L. is purple, Mr. Frank is green, Cole is gold, and Tasha is purple as well. Well, y'all know I'm different. So mine are turquoise and fuchsia.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So those of you that are watching, tonight is entitled The Multicultural Revolution. We already know what's going on around us, so we don't need to jump into all the details. But I think that while everything is going on around us, it's important that we step back and truly think about what's going on, why it's going on, and what we can do to make it better, but more importantly, what we can do to bridge the gaps and learn how to communicate a little bit better. So, what's getting ready to happen is this. I am going to pose a question to one of the individuals on the panel. That person is going to answer that question, and then one by one, I'm not going to say we because I'm just facilitating tonight. You guys are going to respond. So, we're going to open the panel with Derek. And Derek, your question this evening is, what does Black Lives Matter mean to you?
Black Lives Matter means everything to me. And the reason why I say that is because equality is everything to me. I don't believe that I have a right bigger than anybody else. And I believe we all deserve equal rights and equal justice. And it's been huge, especially during this movement. I've been protesting and stuff like that. So it's definitely a huge movement going on right now in my life.
Okay. Now, one might ask the question, when did you come to the understanding, or when did you come to a point where you said, wait a minute, Black Lives Matter? How did that come to you?
Well, honestly, I'll tell you, it's been like since I was a kid. And the reason why I say that is because my grandma will go back and tell me about in the 50s, like segregation and what was going on in the world during her time. And my grandpa, she converted him over. And it's kind of crazy to say, but she converted him over. He was very much a racist, what you would call a bigot, and that's what he was. And she definitely converted him over, and she opened his eyes, which was huge to me. And for me personally, I would say the reason why I opened my eyes was because she used to tell me about the things that they used to go through, that her and her friends growing up and the Black community, what they would go through and all the protesting and marching. And I always said as a kid, I don't understand why it's like this. Why is the world like this? Everybody deserves equality. Everybody deserves justice. Why does the color of your skin determine who you are?
Okay. All right. So now, guys, who wants to answer that question? Why do you feel the color of your skin determines where you are in society?
I feel like
I'm taking everybody off mute. Who wants to choose? Or not? All right, Mr. Frank.
I'll take that one.
Okay.
For me, I spent over half of my life in the military, and in the military, you got to either cooperate or you're going to find a very solitude life. And for me, I didn't separate my teammates by color. The joke is that one day we got pulled over on the side of the road with me driving. Beside me was Captain Lobo, who was Black. I had Captain Yao behind me, and then I had Mouse Ramos sitting behind him. And here we are pulled over in Madison, Florida, and the sheriff's officer pulled us over and said, "You boys aren't from around here, are you?" And what was really funny was the way that he reacted to the fact that we had a white man, a Black man, a Asian, and a Latino all in the same car. And he actually pulled us out and checked us for what we were doing. But I turned around and I said, "Sir, these are my brothers, and these are my family. these guys volunteered to risk their life for me, and I would give my life for them. So before Black Lives mattered, my brother's lives mattered for me. And so it made sense. It made sense when it started, and it made sense a long time before. My son calls several people uncle, and they are every color of the rainbow. And when he was 6 years old, he walked up to me and put his hands on his hips and said, "Dad, did you know that Uncle Henry's black?" It never bothered him. It never appeared to him to be an issue, because Henry was over at my house. Everybody came and went from my house. So for the way that I was raised, and then in the military, I wanted to be the team leader. And if I wanted to be the team leader, everybody was a part of my team.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Frank, I want to plug you. Derek, thank you for your answer. But Mr. Frank, I stay unmuted because I need you to come back and talk to me for a second. You said something very, very, very significant. You said that these were your brothers. You guys were in the military and they were your brothers. At any point in time, did you ever wonder if they were really going to have your back? Was it ever a question, you know what, we're in this military together, but do they really have my back? Do they really trust me? Do I really trust them? Unmute your mic.
Sorry. Yeah. For me, for what I was doing and the people that I worked with, I had no doubt. We'd all gone through the same training, which was unique, not just basic training, but we went through a lot more for what I was doing. And I knew that we had all passed the crucible, and their commitment was, yeah, man, I'll die for you. And when I was in Africa and when I was in the Middle East, I knew for a fact that, and I had actually seen some of my teammates give their life for another teammate. So I had no doubt. Absolutely. And that's including the Navy and the Army and the Marine Corps that I worked with. So, you know, it's different because of who I worked for and the uniqueness of the mission that I did. But I had no doubt. And even today, if they called me on the phone and said, I need your help, I'm there. And that's why this is so frustrating for me, is because it hurts. Because it's this feeling of helplessness is not the way I was raised, and it's not the way that I've lived for the last 50 years.
Hold that right there. Hold that, because I'm coming back to it. But I want to bring in another bet. And I was coming right to you, Mr. Eldot. But Mr. Frank, hold that right there. Hold that helplessness. I'm coming back. Eldot, speak to us. Speak to us.
I was actually
in the military. And what Black Lives Matter
going to, carry out what I was actually going to carry out what he was saying, because I've actually dealt with racism within my regiment at the point. However, I have brothers at that time that was policing it up. So it's like, yeah, we know it exists, but when it exists, we took care of it. Like, it wasn't like we wasn't going to let it slide. So that way it was like guaranteed, like, I know, like, these people are going to have me regardless of what's going on. You know what I mean? So I've dealt with it. I've seen it, but I've seen also that it can actually change amongst everybody. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is literally, you have to go through something. If you go through something with somebody next to you, it'll show you a different perspective, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've lived every type of lifestyle you could think of. Like, I've lived the thug route. I've lived the military lifestyle. I've lived motorcycle, but I've seen a band of brothers. You know what I mean? Regardless of what race it was or what ethnicity it was. Like I've seen a band of brothers, you know what I'm saying, actually form. You know what I mean? It's possible. You know what I'm saying? We just got to see life different. I mean, that's just how I go with it. So I don't even address people with color no more. Like I address them like your name is your title. Not your ethnicity.
Okay. All right. Plug that, because now, Cole, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to our Gen Zer, because Gen Z is a unique population. You guys, I taught you guys. So you guys have a different way of looking at life. I'm talking about from far north to as far south to as far east to as far west. So Cole, when you hear the terms white privilege and white guilt, what do you think of? What comes to mind?
When normally when I hear the term white privilege used, it's gender or not gendered, directed towards people trying to paint. I wouldn't necessarily say blame certain individuals for what's going on, but I see it used more often in that way. I haven't really heard the term white guilt fairly often, so I don't really have one way or another on that. But
understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay. So when you see, your peer group, and when I say your peer group, I'm talking about your age, because tonight, one of the things that I definitely, and this is gonna be a question that I pose, and I want everybody to speak on this, and we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna do this, because everybody's gonna jump when I say this. One of the things that I notice with Gen Zers, I don't really hear you guys say conservative or liberal. I hear a lot of you guys say I'm independent, I think for me. So from your perspective, when you see a lot of your peers, Gen Zers out here protesting about what's going on, how does that make you feel? Like, what are your thoughts relative to what's going on around you right now? What in the world?
Obviously with what's going on recently, a lot of my friends, from whether it's friends that I've met in high school, middle school, across the country, I see a lot of them protesting, or obviously peacefully protesting, donating to causes and all that. And I feel like we all have a mindset. We see what's going on in the world obviously differently than a lot of other people, older people, younger people, and we have it's going to come upon us at some point in time to make a change, and we feel like we see it now between whether you're graduating high school this year, next year, have graduated in the last couple of years. That's where I see a majority of the differences between millennials and Gen Zs. A lot of my older friends definitely are not on that whole independent scale, but a lot of the younger friends are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cole. And guys, tonight I'm gonna single Cole out because he's the baby in the bunch. But it's all good because Cole, we look to you. We look to you and your generation because we're getting older. I mean, I still think I'm fabulous, but I know I'm getting older. And so you guys are going to be the ones that really have to transition. But what I want to talk about, I want to go back. Mr. Frank, I'm going to come back to you, so hold on to the helplessness. Because I know Cole said that he only hears white privilege in terms of blaming. And so, Cole, as a millennial, I want to kind of expand upon it a little bit because I think the viewers need to understand it. And I'm pretty sure you would, like to kind of hear it from not just the other side, so to speak, but also with some empirical data to back it up, right? And so if you, McIntosh, I cannot think of her first name right now, but by definition, white privilege is defined as societal privileges that benefit people with white skin that are beyond what non-white people are able to experience, have access to, or benefit. Now, the reality is that if we look at what's going on in the world right now, it's evident, right? However, when I listen to L. Dot and Mr. Frank, who look totally different, but they had the same experiences in the military. But one of the things I noticed is that they dealt with those experiences right then and there. Mr. Frank, he embraced his brothers. L. Dot, he dealt with it, and that was it. But if we took the military out of the equation, and I'm going to leave that right there, and I'm going to just let that sit because we don't need to talk about that. So I think that what we have to do is we can't look at white privilege as a bad thing because it's there. It's going to be there. It's by design. But I think what we do have to look at is, can we use this good thing to help eradicate the epidemic, which is called racism? Does that make sense, guys? Like, I think that's what the protests are about. And maybe I'm thinking too intellectually, but I think that we definitely have to. Eldad, I'm going to come to you. But Miss Tasha, I want to unmute you for a minute. And okay. I want you to speak to, when you look at what happened in the past week, do you think we're looking at racism or are we looking at the abuse of power?
We're looking at both.
Okay.
We're looking at both. And as a Black woman, coming from a different background, you know, I learned very differently and very early on through family that abuse of power can also be included in racism, especially when you are pointed out or you are put aside or denied based upon your color, but everyone else who has been in, let's say, a position lower than you for a less amount of time is moved up to the position that you file for. And it could be sexist, racist, it's all in abuse of power. Whatever that they can use or a person can use against you because they are over you in power, all of that is intertwined. So when we understand that and we don't get in our feelings and we understand that, okay, your abuse of power against me is because, one, I'm Black, two, I'm a woman, and you don't feel that my degrees or my experience or my information or my ability to do my job better than the next person or you merits the ability to move up or the ability to move on, which has been part of our historical fabric since, and I'm not even going to say since 1619, because that's when we first became slaves, since 1415, when we were here to help the Puritans and we were indentured servants. We were still looked at as lowly, still looked at as less than. So it goes a lot farther than that, than just what's happening now and what's happening last week in February for Ahmaud Arbery. This is systemic, and that's also included in white privilege, white fragility, white tears, white frailty. All of that is together, and that's all right. Recognize.
Thank you, Miss Tasha. Now, guys, this is where it's going to get hectic because now we have set the tone, and I think everybody wants to address this topic of white privilege, and we're going to address it. We're going to talk about it, and it's going to be open, and it's going to be intuitive, and we're going to listen to understand and not just to respond. And so I know that I told Mr. Frank I was coming back to him because I felt he was going there. So this is how we're going to go. We're going to go Mr. Frank. We're going to go L. Dot. Then we're going to come back to you, Derek. Got it? All right, Mr. Frank. So, Mr. Frank, relative to white privilege, I kept telling you to plug feeling helpless because when I was first made privy to the term white guilt, I was like, what? But what I first thought about was the guilt of finally realizing that white privilege is real. How do you feel about that though? Like, do you feel that white privilege is truly, do you feel that white privilege is truly a thing?
Well, I know that it's a perception and it's a feeling and experience that people have. And each and every one of us have gone through life through a different lens. I look at the experience of the Black community, and then I look at the experience of the Irish community. And then I look at the experience of other ethnic groups that have come into the country. No one has ever been forcibly sold into slavery and moved there, except for the folks that have dark colored skin. I cannot argue that at all. But at the same time, the indentured servitude program that my family experienced coming over during the potato famine and doing that makes us kin. It gives us an experience that we both can relate to. And while a lot of people want to say white privilege, white this, I'll be honest, I've got to say that it's responsibility, where it's not white privilege that I look for responsibility. And how am I responsible to all of the panelists here to, one, stand up and say, no, I won't stand for this. And then at the same time, how do I communicate how I feel when I see people put down my brothers and sisters, no matter what their skin color is? No, they're my family. And I have come to the aid of people in trouble. And I think when we talk about the frustration that people see when they watch the video from last week, it would have taken one person to say, officer, you're going to have to arrest me because I can't watch this anymore. If at 5 minutes, at 6 minutes, someone would have walked up and said, officers, you're going to have to arrest me, would George still be alive?
And you know, Mr. Frank, guys, before anybody chimes in, I'm not gonna expand upon it long because I can't hold myself together, because my 81-year-old mother watching that video and telling me to watch that video, it did something different to me. But I have to believe that you could have done that and maybe something would have happened. But if I, Tasha, or L. Dot would have done that, or maybe even Derek, we probably would have gotten hurt. And the bad thing about it is that when I look at the protests and I see my millennial counterparts out there burning stuff up, y'all, I'm thinking to myself, I can't do that because I'm going to be in handcuffs. But I guess that's where that theme comes in, where it's like, hold up. I see two people throwing bottles through stores on Broad Street, but I only see one being taken down. Why? And they look different.
See, I I struggle with that because I wouldn't, the throwing of bottles, throwing of bricks. I understand the anger and I understand the frustration and I appreciate it because it hurts. But the issue that I have, and I go back to what I saw from Terrence Floyd at his brother's memorial 2 days ago. And he asked us the question, what are you all doing? And he didn't just ask the question of the people that were throwing bricks or breaking windows or tearing down stores or destroying lives. He asked that of our nation. What are you all doing? He asked me that question. What am I doing? And that's why I called you and said, hey, look, I want in.
And you did. You did. You were ready.
You need to know that there are amazing people out here that heard what he said and stand and say, what are we doing?
Absolutely. And I agree with that.
Yeah, that's the important part that we have to carry forward. Because if we don't, what happens is, well, he's just a white guy. And we're just going to ignore him and treat him the way that we think that all of those folks need to. One of the questions that I asked on the side was, how do we get into these damn boxes? How do we get there?
It's been years. It's been years. It's been years.
Why do we let ourselves get there?
We're going to plug this. We're going to plug you, Mr. Frank, because I know we can go for days and days and days. All right, L. Dot and then Derek. L. Dot, tell me a little bit about that. You got to unmute your mic.
I mean, I feel like, yes, it does exist, but we giving it the wrong word, if that makes any sense. And what I'm getting at is, I look at stuff in a logical sense. If you take, let's take color, for instance. If you take a black crown and a white crown, besides the color, what's the difference? Both of them color the same way. They just color different. That's it. We just have to understand what is the difference in it. You know what I mean? Like, we know that this exists because there's somebody that's higher than where we're at that want us to stay segregated. You know what I mean? Think about it. The media and the news is all entertainment. They need to keep their ratings up there, so they're only going to show you stuff that's going to keep you level. That's it. They got to keep their ratings up. So if you keep looking for something that they're going to fish for you, you're always going to see it. You know what I mean? So I asked the question one day, you know what I mean? Like, we've all, in a logical sense, we've all broken up. We went through a relationship. We broken up. How do we get away from it? We stopped talking about it. We made sure it was out of our mind that person never existed to us. We can't do that for racism. It's the same concept. If somebody say, hey, I saw such and such, man, I ain't trying to hear none of that. You can't do that for racism. It's the same concept, period. And I wanted to go back. I can't catch your name, but he's the young one. You know what I'm saying? I learned something from the young Cole. Excuse me for calling you young one, but you know what I'm saying? I learned something from a younger person on being independent, but I just took it in a different mindset. I don't have to follow the laws of what they taught me. I just got to research what I'm wanting, period. If I do my own research, I don't have to find out anything entertaining on media, period. Numbers can get fabricated. We all know this. There's people that's hired that can fabricate these numbers, period, just so you can get riled up. Like, I've been fighting for 36 years, period. Every type of fight I fought different. I'm tired of fighting. So I have to change my narrative.
Guys, this is all things authentic, and y'all don't understand. I stood for 8 minutes and 46 seconds today, and I cried my eyes out. And now we only been in here for 32 minutes, and y'all got me ready to cry. I didn't come here for this. I came here so that we could have a platform.
I mean, And it takes stuff like this, to get a better understanding. Like,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? I shouldn't look at Frank or Cole or Derek any different just off of skin complexion, because they went through something that I never went through. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
nobody here, you know what I'm saying, can understand my pain unless I talk about it. You know what I mean? Our pain might be similar. Nobody would have never known me and Frank served in different platforms, but we served the country, period.
Absolutely.
What's the difference? We served it different. We're just different in skin tone. That's it. We do the same thing. That's why I brought that whole crayon philosophy. We both did the same thing.
I like to talk.
Oh, I just get excited. I get
Y'all
passionate
like
about it. Really?
Y'all like to talk. But I'm going to plug you. And
Okay.
Cole, don't you go anywhere. But I'm going to have to swap you out for another Gen Zer, okay? Don't you go anywhere, but I'm going to send you backstage for a few minutes. And while I'm doing that, Derek, I want you to go ahead and speak your piece, baby.
Okay, so the thing that I really want to touch on is going back to what Frank was saying about, you know, like, how do we get into these boxes, and also commenting on what you were saying as well, like about how, like, what is the difference between like the crayons, you know? And the thing is, like, comparing bodies, and the thing is our country was founded on this, and this is the problem. Our country was founded on saying Black people were different. And the problem is that when slaves were first brought into slavery in the United States, they had to get everybody on board. And back then, even, there were white people who were not on board with it. So they had scientists, just all forms of scientists, political figures, everything, commenting on saying that Black people were different and lesser as people. And this is the problem, because this is what our nation was founded on. And one thing that I've really been commenting on and saying that really needs to change within our nation is this. A lot of white people think that this is a fight this is Black people's fight, but this is white people's fight for Black people. And this is what I'm going to say about it. The reason why I got to say this is because this is a system that Black people cannot fix without white people fixing it, because they created it. So how do you fix a system that was not made by you? There's no way. You have to have white allies to jump in and jump on board and to fix the problem. And the reason why I say that is because this is how our country was founded. And at the end of the day, you know, I feel like there's just that wall that, you know, it's kind of like what she was saying as well. Like, okay, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name, but
she's purple. She's purple.
Purple. Okay. Hey, Purple. No, but just like you were saying about like about power, like that's a huge thing, because Black people can try as hard as they want to get to that next step, but without the power, and you know, it's limited to Black people, and it's a sad thing, and it really bothers me, you know. And not trying to throw my personal business and my life out there, but I have a lot of Black influences in my life, you know, like, and like, for instance, when I first met Lily, we was on vacation, having a good old time, and we just met.
I ain't know who he was, but he was lit, and I was lit, and we were on the boat, and we turned up. So yeah,
we just vibe, you know, and that's just what it was. And it wasn't looking at skin color or anything like that. At the end of the day, what white people had to remember is, and this is one thing I hear often, and it really bugs me, is do not comment and say you don't see skin color, because you do. We all see skin color, and that's a problem. Yeah. That's a real problem. Do not say you don't see skin color, because you can say all day that you don't see skin color, but you sound just as racist as the people saying they hate Black folks. Because at the end of the day, if you don't see color, you don't see society, baby. And that's what it is. And that's really how I feel. And like, things really need to change. And I feel like white people are the people who are responsible for the change, and me included. You know, I've already been on the team a long time ago for change, but I mean, that also goes out to not only me and my household, but my friends, my family. You know, I can't even tell you within this last week, especially, you know, I'm very like involved in this situation. Like, I live in Dallas, Texas now. I have protested twice, and I can talk more about that later, about how different it was. You know, in Dallas, the police was against us, and then in Frisco, it was like, okay, the police were marching us in, and that's two different vibes on what's going on, you know, and it's very powerful. But I will just say, at the end of the day, like, for me as a white person, it is my job to put everybody and my ducks in a row. And if you're not in a row with this, I can separate from lots of things. But if racism is something that we disagree on, that's not a disagreement. That is human rights. And if you don't agree with it, you got to go.
Wow. All right, Derek. Thank you. Now, I have to speak to the other Gen Zer in the house. And I think she want to be a millennial so bad, but I'm putting her in Gen Z because she's just my baby doll. And this is Miss Alex. And Miss Alex, I know you've been listening, and I'm unmuting you because, Alex, I want you to speak to the panel about your feelings about Black Lives Matters, what it means to you, but also what white privilege looks like to you.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off backwards. How you said I'm gonna start off with white privilege first, but I guess with my definition or my perspective on it, white privilege is being stopped. I'm sorry, y'all. My dog is being a little terrorist right now, but white privilege, my perception or definition of it is basically, give it to me, but basically it means, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, but it means that, you know, white people benefiting or gaining from being born the way that they are versus Black people, you know, being allowed to get away with more, paid more, whatever it is, anything beneficial that somebody else that looks different would not get. And okay. Black Lives Matter. I do see a lot of people, you know, saying all lives matter. That's not, Black Lives Matter is not saying all lives matter. But it's highlighting a pattern that has been going on with Black people being targeted, though. So that's what, you know, Black Lives Matter, because it hasn't mattered for ever in our country. So it's saying that we matter too, because we're highlighting a pattern of Black people, especially Black men, that have been targeted. So it's not dismissing all lives matter, like, okay, nobody else's lives matter. That's not what it means. It's just highlighting what's been going on. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes that perception gets mixed up, like, oh, well, don't all lives matter? Nobody's dismissing that. We're just highlighting what's currently going on. So there's a big difference there.
Okay, and thank you, Alex. So, all right, let's plug for a minute, and we have about 25, 30 more minutes to go. So what I'm going to do is, right now, I want to stop because we do have a major question. And this is going to require Frank and LDOT's expertise. Okay. The question that Miss Tommy Girl out of Macon, Georgia asked is, she wants to know, would you guys say that the level of training in the military is different, to your knowledge, than the police system?
You want to go first?
That's the question.
You want to go
and
first?
I'm going to put the question up. Yeah, I'm going to LDOT, and then Mr. Frank, I'm going to come to you.
Okay, so you want me to go first?
Uh-huh.
Absolutely, there's a difference. There's a big difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, that in the Army, they teach us to not, you know what I'm saying, like, to be aware. They have a Geneva Convention. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't shoot unless we are actually threatened. You know what I mean? Like, we actually have something like a law in place saying that we can't shoot the enemy unless the enemy is threatening us. It has to be a liable threat. Like, we have to see the pistol and the shot go off. You know what I mean? Like, so they trained us to that. What's the difference? They don't train them that. That is the difference. They don't train them to actually use the weapon for what it's used for. It's not to actually just put them down. It's actually to protect, period. What are you protecting them if you're gunning them down? We don't gun down. Even if, like, for example, I can go off an example. We had a checkpoint. I'm not going to really go into details in it, but the guy flew past it. We had to say, stop or I'll shoot. Stop or I'm shooting. That's 30 seconds if you really think about it. But they taught us that. It's different. It's so different. It's so different. They have to learn the military.
Okay. All right. Now, Mr.
I'm completely with LDOT.
Come on in.
Yeah, my job was a little bit different, but I know because he said regiment, I know where he worked. So we actually probably shared the same battlefield.
Wow.
The reality of what I did is we were trained for discipline. Okay. Police officers go through specific training at the beginning of their training. And my dad was both a police officer and a firefighter and served in the Camden riots, not as a police officer, but as a firefighter. So a lot of my emotions came from that. But to answer the military question, the one thing that LDOT and I can both agree on, you don't go to regiment, you don't go onto the teams unless you have committed to muscle memory every single thing you're going to do, and to include when you pull the trigger. Okay. And I've done that. You know, I used to tell my niece's boyfriends that, you know, the first one's the hardest one to take, but if you hurt that little girl, you're going to be easy. That's a joke, but it is an actual statement. The first time that you take a life is really hard. And for me, I regret those things. But at the same time, I was protecting my brothers. I was protecting my team. I was protecting the guy to the left and right of me. Now, going back to Allie's.
And that makes a.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
That makes to me, what you and LDOT are saying makes all the world of difference, right? It makes a big difference when you got to listen to what you guys just said. This is what I heard. And Frank, when I do this, you're going to know what I'm doing. What I hear you saying is you guys were protecting others. You were not trying to take out the enemy per se. You were trying to protect your brothers and sisters. I guess LDOT probably had more sisters than you did, Mr. Frank, because when you went in, it probably wasn't a whole lot of sisters.
I had a lot of sisters. You'd be surprised.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Afghanistan, we had
But
tons.
I hear protect, though. I hear protect.
Yes.
I don't hear train to kill. I hear protection. Both of you who served in the military, I heard protect. And I want to plug that.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I want to plug that because I do need to bring someone else in, but I want to plug that. I want to plug that for a minute. Now, Miss Alex, I'm going to bring someone in. I'm going to bring another baby boomer in. And this baby boomer has a different perspective because she was born up top. So her perspective and me and Miss Tasha's perspective is a lot different. So Alex, I'll bring you right back. Hello, my dear. Good evening. Unmute your mic. I don't think she unmuted her mic. Unmute your mic. I don't think it's working for her. So, guys, you are listening to All Things Authentic, and I'm waiting for Miss Tracy, the boss lady Raw Silk, to unmute her mic so that we can hear from her. She actually works with housing. And not only does she work with housing, she does a lot of stuff with the NAACP's Council on Housing. and she really has to help a lot of different people. So I think she's frozen too. Yeah, I think she's frozen. So we're going to give her an opportunity to unmute her mic and fix her camera, and then we will bring her back on. Okay. So I'm just, right now, I really don't know which way to go because I'm feeling a couple of different things. So I'm feeling like we all came here not knowing anything about the other. And I'm glad, because what happened, let me tell you why I didn't want y'all to tell anybody anything about you. Because if we would have told one another what our backgrounds were, we would have already started formulating opinions about everybody. But when you came into this situation and you knew nothing about each other but the color of your skin, you didn't know what was going to happen. Y'all didn't know that L. Dot and Frank were going to say the same doggone thing just in different ways. And that's why I'm happy right now. Because viewers, y'all need to understand something. I'm pro-black, but that doesn't mean I'm anti-white. I'm pro-black because that's all I know. I was born black. My mother and father walked. They protested. So when I talk to people about how passionate I am about this thing, see, a lot of my peers, your grandparents got beaten and got dog sick on them. My mother, well, I take that back because my mom will tell you straight up. See, when the police and the fire trucks came with the hoses, I ran. I was stupid. I won't go into jail. But I have a primary source to go to. So my emotion and my passion is different, just as Mr. Frank emotion and passion is going to be different. And I'm going to pick on you for a minute. Mr. Frank is conservative. I mean conservative. And he's the only person I'm going to talk about any kind of views. He is conservative. But one thing I've learned is that he's human first. And I have to put this out there, Mr. Frank. And I think it was yesterday. Someone tried to come for him. And it took everything in me not to roast that person on his status. Because someone tried to come for him. Oh, so you changing up? And I'm thinking to myself, do these people not know that he got some real liberal friends that rock with him that will roast you on this status? But I let his status be civilized. And I just said, really? With the question mark? Because someone really tried to come for him. But one thing I have had to learn from him, and he has had to teach me because he has had to come on my status and check some people, is that we can do more damage being civilized and ignoring. Because the other part of it is sometimes ignorance does not deserve a response all the time. Now, sometimes you got to get lit. But ignorance does not always deserve a response. And I thank you for that lesson. And the funny thing is, Mr. Frank, after you taught me that lesson, L. Dot came back and taught me the same doggone thing. Then my baby girl had to come back and teach me the same thing. All right, so we got a black woman, a white man, and another black man. We got a boomer, a millennial, and a Gen Zer, but I learned something from every last one of you. That tells me something. That tells me that in order to change this system, it's going to take all of us working together and not against one another. That's what it tells me. But I'm going to step back because I'm facilitating and y'all supposed to be talking.
Can I?
Come on.
Yeah, I love the talk because of where I'm at in life now. You know what I mean? Like back then, I wasn't seeing things clearly and this, that, and the third. I had to change my narrative. You know what I mean? Like I had to look at things different. Like You know, like I stated earlier, I fought all my life. I was just fighting wrong. You know what I mean? Like I went at the battle hurting myself on it. You know what I mean? So I look at it as, you know what I'm saying? Like the way that Derek was saying it, yes, that's one way to change it. Like we will have to have some, you know what I'm saying, some that actually started the whole situation to fight for it. You know what I'm saying? But my perspective, I look at it as, because we're all at fault for what's going on right now. You know what I'm saying? I've seen both sides of the spectrum where I got picked on for my skin color. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just a white side. The black side called me dark winged duck, this, that, and the third. Like I went through this. You know what I mean? So I can't sit here and say that it's only one-sided with racism. You know what I mean? I had to go through that for myself. Like I had to figure out how to change myself. And I feel like if people learn how to change themselves, we wouldn't have to worry about pointing a finger at somebody else.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do, and Derek, I'm coming to you. What we're getting ready to do is, Eldot, I'm going to take you out for 1 second, but I'm going to bring you back. I want to give everybody 1 to 2 minutes to give final thoughts. And I know Derek has something to say, and Cole, I'm bringing you back. All right, Derek.
So a couple things that I just want to touch on are another thing, kind of what LDOT was talking about how, you know, it even comes down to the Black community. And I feel that with law enforcement. And the reason why I say that is because in my hometown, Battle Creek, Michigan, little old town, about 20 minutes from there in Kalamazoo. I know, right? Woo woo, where the cereal comes from, you know. But like, I'm telling you, 20 minutes from there in Kalamazoo, peaceful protesters were there, and their chief of police officer is a Black male. And he stepped in front of the whole crowd of peaceful protesters and said, I just have a job that I have to do. And he said, y'all got to go home. We have a curfew going on, and it's 7 o'clock. And there was a Black woman leading the crowd, and she pointed him out, and she said, I completely do not understand why, A, we have to go home. We're being peaceful. And B, when you come home tonight and take that uniform off, you are going to be a Black male to the police. And it does not matter that you are chief of police, anything like that. You get pulled over, you are going to be the same exact thing. And I 100% agree with that. And that's one thing that really needs to change as well. Like I seen in Fort Lauderdale, there was a Black female officer during a protest, and she jumped down this man who stopped a peaceful protester. And that's what needs to happen. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like what LDOT was saying, it starts in your own backyard. And I'll say this with white people, Black people, Mexicans, no matter who you are, it starts in your own backyard. So if you can't stand up for you and your own people, that's where the problem results from. And I really think people need to really step back and think about that. And I'll tell you, like, before I just go on and talk all day, I will tell you that my biggest thing is like me being a part of this movement has definitely, like, you know, I've been around the Black community a long time and had a lot of influencers and things like that throughout my life. My daughter is Black. My boyfriend is Black, you know, and all my friends basically from back home, I'm a little white boy from back home, you know, so it's kind of one of those things like I've had a heavy influence in the Black community. And one thing I'll say, I thought I knew a lot about the community, but you learn even more. And so open yourself up to learning more, because just because you think you know everything about someone or their community, you can always learn more. And one thing I learned is that when we protested, you know, even the areas that you think wouldn't support your group of people, if you just open your mouth and say something, people will listen. And that was a huge thing to me, because Frisco, Texas, I'm going to tell y'all this, it's mostly white and Indian folks who live here. And we protested deep, couple thousand people, and it was moving. People were coming outside of their homes. We were in a very much so residential area. And let me tell you, people were coming outside their houses, bringing their kids and everything. People weren't scared. People were coming out, and you know, it was huge. Like, it was so moving. When I tell you, I have goosebumps talking about it right now. It was moving, and this is something I'm gonna live to tell my daughter about, you know. But one thing, like, I'll finish up and say with is, you know, with my first protest in Dallas, I went live before it, and I said, always remember the person next to you. You know, it might be your daughter, it might be your son, it might be your husband, it might be just the person in the cubby next to you. You know, it could be anybody. It could be somebody opening the door for you at a restaurant. Like, look at that person as a person and not what society wants us to define it as. And as long as we get our people in check, we'll be able to change something.
Oh my God, Derek, thank you, thank you, thank you. Those were your final thoughts. I'm sticking to it. Wow, that's all I can say. Thank you, Derek. I'm going to pop you out for LDOT, but please, please, please continue to watch. I love you to pieces, and I will talk to you soon. Wow, now that was powerful. That was powerful. So, Miss Natasha, I'm going to let you lead with the final thoughts. And guys, with your final thoughts, I would love for you guys to speak to what this right here means to you, but also what is your next step in trying to elicit a new response? Tasha, take it away.
All right, so touch back first on the military side. I'm a Blue and Gold Star family member. I've been a Gold Star family member since the Revolutionary War. Our family runs deep. You know that, Lily. We run deep. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's my cuz. We run deep.
I ain't tell Mr. Frank. He don't know how deep we run.
And the thing in our family is education. You just don't scream from a crowd because somebody else started screaming. Yeah. You don't follow somebody off the Brooklyn Bridge because they said, let's do it. You know, all those different cliches and sayings that our parents gave us. That stuff is truth. It's real truth because somebody did it. Somebody just hung out in the crowd and said, hey, I'm going to run, I'm going to scream, I'm going to throw bottles of feces and bottles of urine because I don't think this is going anywhere. Rioting is the voice of the unheard. Protesting is the action of people who want a seat at the table. And that's how we get our seats at the table. And it's happened many, many, many times before. White privilege can be white privilege of people of a higher class against the same people in their same color and creed and ethnicity of a lower class. What was the poll tax for? It wasn't just for us. It was for our counterparts who were also sharecropping. They didn't want them to vote because they knew if they voted, we wouldn't just had 5 Black men in Congress, 4 senators and 1 congressman after the first civil rights after 1865. That was the problem. The KKK grew out of that from 1866.
Okay.
And that's how they were able to take our civil rights from us the first time, because they found out how powerful we were. Every culture, every class, every human being is powerful. But for some reason, there is a group, and I'm going to say they are the minority because the majority feels the same way. If you can look around at the globe, everyone that has been rioting, everybody that has been protesting, my people in Germany, I was born and raised in Germany, Army proud. I had most of my family in Germany, Europe, in England, in Iraq at the same time during the Gulf War. And we were all going through the same thing. And there is no color in the military. There is unity between your brother and your sister and your families. Many men who came out of the military went into the police force during that time frame. There was strict training of protection. Every time you saw a card, protect and serve was underneath that word police.
Yep.
Now, for some reason, the training has gone down to the point where it's just get them out of here any way you can by any means necessary. Protect and serve is no longer a part of their emblem. It's no longer on their shield. It's no longer in the thinking like it is of a military person. It's not there anymore. So now we're sheeple. And the thing that I want to build across to people is you need to learn your information. You need to do the research. Get the primary and the secondary information, but do not touch that tertiary. YouTube, Wikipedia, you know all of them. Me and you know it as academics. We don't touch that.
Absolutely.
Get
Absolutely. Scholarly sources, people. Scholarly sources.
Read the laws. Read Scott Dred Scott. How many times lawsuits under his name went in? Plessy versus Ferguson. Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka. Read it. Learn it. Feel it for yourself and understand that every person that was born on this world, born in this continent, on this state, in this country, this republic is human first. And treat them as
absolutely.
That's how
absolutely.
If I see you come in the door, I'm not going to judge you just because of your skin. I'm going to say, oh, I might want to talk to that person. They seem interesting. But people don't think like that anymore because it's
well, you know, you know what? But and we're not going there.
Exactly.
But I think when you get, I think certain people think like that.
Yeah.
I think most of us think like that because I already knew Mr. Frank was wondering what color my hair was going to be when I got on the screen.
Yes, he
did. So I already knew because yeah, they know one day my hair up and then an afro and the next day it's about 40 inches long. So I think all of us here are probably the only ones that think like that. But Tasha, that's powerful.
Yeah.
It is powerful that one of the things you said, we are human first. And I want to plug that because I definitely want I want everybody to have their 2 minutes for their final thoughts. And so, Cole, I'm going to come to you, darling, because you have been spectacular. And thank you so much for joining us. But what are your final thoughts about tonight and just about the state of affairs in the world, period?
Tonight was, I feel like, enlightening for not just me, but everybody here. Because we obviously have Gen Z, millennials, everyone, you know, from ranging in different ages. We get to see everyone from a diverse perspective. Obviously, I'm, you know, I haven't lived much past, you know, high school. I don't know what the military is like. I don't know what, you know, life is like post schooling. It's very interesting to see that even like I'm come from a military family as well. Knowing that obviously know, like, you know, some of the stuff like, yeah, you only shoot to protect. You don't, you know, shoot because you have a feeling they're going to do anything. It's, you always wait and see what happens first. And I feel like, you know, as a generation, as Gen Z, we have kind of developed that in a way where we see what goes on before we make our interpretations. We tend, from my friend group, we all tend to look at things. We look at, you know, the older generations. We look at us, and we talk about what our feelings are on certain situations. Me and a couple friends recently, obviously, with what's going on. We've talked about, you know, what's gone on with what happened last week and what's gone on in the world in general over this past couple months. And it's definitely interesting to see how Mr. Frank's experiences and LDOT's experiences are very similar while being from two very different backgrounds, while, you know, having that military experience. And it's very eye-opening to hear that.
Absolutely. Wow. Cole, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And don't go anywhere because I want a snapshot of everybody before we close out. All righty. Miss Alex, I'm back to you, baby. What are your final thoughts? This is my baby doll. I love her to death, guys. And I have to let everybody know how I met Alex. Alex and I are on a online social isolation series. It's a reality show that's coming out in the summer. And so it grew out of coronavirus. And so, guys, look out for that. Online isolation series is coming out this summer. But, Alex, what are your final thoughts? And her final thoughts are going to be every week. So, Alex, just let it rip.
Okay, so while everyone was talking, I was actually looking at the names at the bottom. And it's so crazy because I saw Trayvon's name come on there, and I realized like I was a freshman in college when he died, and that was my very first protest that I went to was for Trayvon Martin. And I remember I told my aunt, I said, I want you to take me to the rally in Greenville. She was like, wait, you want to go? And I was like, yeah, I want you to take me. And she had two-year-olds at the time. They're twins. So she was like, okay. And I remember going, and again, you know, being young, not straight out of high school. I was a freshman in college. So yeah, kind of straight out of high school. I didn't know what to expect. I knew what we were protesting for, but I didn't know why we were out there, what to expect, who was going to be out there. But it was a lot of people. And I remember I saw so many people crying. They had signs, T-shirts, none of us knew Trayvon. We knew where he lived. We knew his name. But I remember I saw so many people crying. And that was my first experience at a protest. But I knew I wanted to go to another one. And as you see, you know, we didn't even want to talk about that case because it still didn't go the way we thought it was going to go. But my final thoughts is, I like that you did this platform here, because listening to different people's perspective of death, especially people that are younger than me and older than me. And I feel like I did learn something from everybody, because instead of getting out of my own shell, my own bubble, I learned something from each person, or they highlighted a different perspective that I didn't think about, probably would have never thought about if it wasn't about my ears. So I appreciate everybody coming on here and saying their piece and their perspective, because you're right. If we listen to different perspectives outside of our own thoughts, outside of our own mind, we can learn something and formulate new thoughts of our own, or a new perspective of our own. And I feel like that makes you a wiser person. That makes you, you grow as an individual when you can open yourself up and listen to other people on the platform here. So I do appreciate listening to everyone's perspective. I know I came late in the game. I was late because I forgot to get my dog some food today. So I had to go run the store and get him some food. He was not going to eat tonight. But so when I came in, I hate I didn't hear everybody, but I listened to enough though. So I appreciate everyone saying their piece. And I didn't think anyone talk too long. I like when people talk. That way it helps me formulate my own new perspective, because listening to everyone else's experience. But I think that everyone can grow from everyone else's experience, because obviously nobody's ever going to have the same experience in life. But if you listen to, you're never going to have the same experience, or even sometimes can't even relate to other people, because I hate when people say, oh, I understand where you come from. No, sometimes you can't understand, you can't relate, because it's not happening. Probably will never happen to you. So, yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Alex. Mr. Frank, let it rip.
Hey, the first thing that I want to say before I go into my closing comments is that one of the statements, and LDOT will back me up on this, one of the things that we learned a long time ago in leadership is that it's always that 10%. When we go and say that the police are a problem, it's really 90% of the police are part of the solution, and 10% of 10% are that problem.
I think we all agree. I
think that just needed to be said, because again, my dad was a police officer in the 60s, and my uncle was in Vietnam, and I've known two men in my life that I grew up with that, man, you said something racially insensitive or a problem, you were going to meet with a fight. And I think that that's where my respect and love comes from. And that's what we have to be for our young ones, for Cole, for everybody that's listening to this, is we need to be that example. The other thing that we talked about a little bit was how military training prepares us to move forward. Why can't we do that with our military or with our police officers? And how can we make them better prepared to protect? Like I said, 90% of them are there to protect. I think about the police officer or the police chief in Flint, Michigan. Okay, you got Battle Creek that we talked about earlier with Derek, but Flint, Michigan, the chief took off all of his gear, took off everything, and said, I'm walking with you. I'm here with you because it pissed me off.
I know that's the truth.
All we need to do is stand up and say, this is not my country. This is not how we behave. And stand up. If good people do nothing, then evil will survive.
Ooh.
But if good people stand up and say, no more,
that's it.
We will create change. Before I finish, and I've got somebody that wants to say hello to you, Lily, I want to give you a quote from Viktor Frankl, and I looked it up on my other computer.
Okay.
And this is one that I posted yesterday. But Viktor Frankl, who was a Auschwitz survivor, who was a psychologist that observed the behavior of both the Nazi and the prisoners in Auschwitz, wrote, from all my experience, all that we have learned, there are honestly only two races in the world. There are only these two, the race of the decent man and that of the race of the indecent. Both are found everywhere. They penetrate into every group, and no group consists entirely of the decent or the indecent. And he has been a hero, and one of the reasons why I went into psychology.
Yep.
He's been a hero for me. And that statement, and having actually walked the camp of Auschwitz and seen the horrors that he saw, but then also finding the humanity even in the worst of situations, you know, you guys are family to me. You guys are my brothers and sisters. And you pick up the phone, Lily, you've done it before. I will be there for you, girl. And
absolutely.
And any of you, and LDOT, like I said, we need to connect, brother. The reality is that the only way that we're going to succeed in changing the world is by connecting together.
That's it. I agree.
I love you guys.
Well stated. Don't leave. Just mute your mic because we're going to get a snapshot. All righty. LDOT, it is your turn to shine.
Definitely, we're going to link up for sure, along with Derek, because I realized he's in Dallas, and I was like, it's like 2 hours. So, you know, but anyway, what I've gathered like today or whatever, I'm kind of going to play it in a logical sense. I think what we're lacking is knowledge. And here's how I go with this. Like, if anybody has read the first dictionary, there's only been one definition for each word. Anything else after that was fabricated or was amended into the dictionary. So if you look at the word color, it was meant for the rainbows, like blue, green, yellow, all this other stuff. So how did it become what it's meant for now? We as the people decided to make that happen. You know what I mean? So I just want to put that portion of the part in mind. So I want to go forward to kind of like break it down in different perspectives for different people. So I work on cars and motorcycles a lot, right? So if you look at, say, like Hyundai, Toyota, this, that, and the third, they give you commercials on how they the best car. But if you think about it, Mercedes, Jaguar, they don't have cars, a commercial. They just show you that they're on top of their game. We could do the same thing. We don't, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I said media is entertaining. So if it's showing you in their face what's going on, it's the same thing as showing you that this Honda is better than a Mercedes.
And that's why we are rewriting the narrative with this. This is going to be the new media. This is going to be media.
Right. You have to change your narrative. You know what I'm saying? Because it's always been thrown in our face that this person is a bad person. Well, really, you need to go find out for yourself. We forgot to do that. As people, we forgot to go find our own knowledge. We don't know how to do that anymore. Why? Because it's now given to us. So with it now being given to us, guess what? This is the last story I'm going to go with, because I got to break it down again. Because it's a follow-up to the story I'm going with. So if you think of, say if you think of a zoologist, right? You take a zoologist and a chimpanzee, right? You put a banana in front of that chimpanzee. You don't want it to touch that banana. So what do? You beat it till it learns not to touch that banana anymore. Once it learns that, you put a second chimpanzee in there. Do the same as that thing until it learns that. By the time you get to your third chimpanzee, you will never have to beat that chimp anymore. The chimp is going to do it for you because you taught it that. And that's my piece. So.
Well, I didn't learn. I had to get whippings more than my brother, so I didn't learn. I'm that rebel child. Look, Tasha started it. Then Cole came in there. Then Mr. Frank, Alex, and L. Dot, and we still got Derek backstage. Look, y'all. I don't need to give y'all final thoughts because these 6, 7 individuals just warm my heart. When I tell you all things authentic is going to be the new media, and if y'all, hold on guys, Molly is getting ready to give final thoughts. Molly, how are you? So guys, Molly is, let me tell you something. If nobody can bring people together, Molly can. I'm trying to tell you what I know. Anybody that know me know I'm terrified of dogs. But Molly made certain that I understood that she was a friend. And Frank, thank you for that. The first dog I ever picked up and took a picture of. Straight up take a picture with, straight up. But guys, it's been real tonight. Every last one of you deserve a standing ovation. I appreciate you. I salute to you because I know you have a lot of things forthcoming and you are in our prayers. L. Dot, thank you guys. Tune in next Tuesday, I think. L. Dot is going to talk about himself as an artist. So guys, you need to tune in for that interview on It's Consulting Time. Alex will be with me from week to week. And next week, she has a surprise that she doesn't even know about. And stay tuned because Miss Tasha is going to be supporting the label. So shout out to Skyfall Records out of Atlanta, guys. Y'all already know I got my hands on a little bit of everything. And Derek, he backstage, but Derek better watch out because we about to come and take Texas by storm. So everybody, once again, my final thoughts are always the same. All things authentic. The multicultural revolution is always going to come and bring you joy, jewels, and tonight you learned all about justice. Have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen.